Have you ever wondered how to create a customer success plan so good the customer was so satisfied? Well, in this video, I'm about to show you the secret 5-step framework I use to create great success plans every time. These frameworks, they are so good that top CSMs and top companies around the world, they use this framework to create their success plans. And at the end of this video, I'm also going to show you a customer success plan that I created that helped a customer to save over $40,000 in losses within 30 days. And I used this same framework to create that success plan. So now, without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, this framework I'm about to show to you is called the SPICE framework, right? The SPICED SPICE framework. And I'm going to walk you through each part of it and how to utilize it when you are creating your own customer success plan. So now let's get into it. The first part of it, which is the S, stands for situation. Now, what does situation mean? Situation basically mean, the profile of the customers, things like their size, their industry, their segments, their employee, the count of employees at the company. This is basically what the situation means. And when it comes to the situation, you are going to collect this information from the sales team, right? Since the sales team has probably done all this while they were doing the sales calls, right? So anything they have gathered, you do this. Now, from the data that you collect, right, from the sales team, you also want to understand why the customer is doing this now, why they are choosing the company. Yeah, that means our own company, and what they hope to gain. The outcomes they hope to gain based on what the sales team has promised them. Right now, they haven't spoken to you, right? So that means all the promises they know about for now is still what the sales team has promised them. So you want to know what these things are, because you want to avoid being in a situation whereby you are making the customer repeat everything they've already said, right? Or you are telling the customer different things from what the sales team said. So you want to be aligned, because you don't want to make a wrong impression. This is like the worst way to make a first impression on the customer. So that's why you are collecting all this information before kickoff. Not to be asking the customer, but to validate it, right, on the kickoff call. So you can now start to validate it. So that's the whole point of the situation. Now let's move to P of the framework, which stands for pain or the opportunity that they see. Now, this part is usually done over the kickoff call. Remember, I said you want to validate all the things you collected from the sales call, from the sales team, right? You want to validate it, right? Then when you are validating with the customer, you want to use the 5 whys framework, right? The 5 why. You want to use that framework to dig deeper into the actual pain points, to understand the core reason why they are actually doing all this. Why did they have this pain? Why did they see this opportunity? Why are they facing this challenge? The 5 why frameworks is one of the best frameworks to help you to dig deeper into this, right? And remember, I said you do not want them to repeat themselves, but rather you are validating these things and expanding on it to get to the root cause of it. Now, one thing also you need to take note is that while trying to dig deeper, you want to group the pain, either their pain or the opportunity they see. You want to group it into 3 buckets. Now, that is the pain and the opportunity of the decision makers or whoever is paying for it, right? The pain and the opportunity of the end users, those that are going to be utilizing it in their day-to-day, right? And the pain or the opportunity of champions or power users, the special people who are going to be potential champions or potential power users. You want to group this into these 3 buckets, because each of them, you see, one thing you could realize as a customer success manager is that 2 people can be working at the same company with the same KPIs and still have very different goals, pains, and perspectives. That is why you want to ensure that you are aligned. Now, there's one thing called change management in customer success, and this is why it's very important, because change management allows you to cater to the needs of each stakeholders involved, right? Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to attach a document which details how I go into change management. And one more thing you also want to do is to ensure that you quantify their pain or the opportunities, right? You tie it to things like revenue gain or loss, maybe time gain or loss, or maybe productivity. You just want to ensure that you quantify the pain so that it will be more visible to them, so that you will understand why the success plan is important. Now, once you have all this checked and you're already clear on the pain and the opportunity of each relevant stakeholders, you want to move on to the next part of the framework, which is high. I stand for impact. So what are impact? Basically, these are the outcomes they want to achieve related to their pains and or the opportunities that they see. Now, remember, just like the pain and the opportunity, you also want to group this into 3 buckets, right? The decision makers, the end users, and the champions. Now, since you are still in the onboarding phase, these outcomes should be based on what can be achieved within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or how long your onboarding takes. You know, the kickoff call usually occur during the onboarding phase, right? So you want to ensure that these outcomes that you're talking about is what can be achieved within the time frame, because you're trying to get to that time to value as quick as possible, right? Remember, the first goal of the customer when the onboarding is time to time to value. Now, when you are talking about the outcomes and their goals, right? When you are now starting to talk about these outcomes that you want to achieve, you want to ensure that first of all, you understand the overall business outcome of the company, because there are different kind of outcomes. So, but it's like an umbrella. You first want to start from the overall business goal or the outcome of the company. What do executives want to see? How does this product play a role in what they want to see? You want to understand that. Then once you have gotten clear on that, you now start drilling down into the outcomes and the goals of the stakeholders, right? The various involved stakeholders in relation to this overall business goal of their company, right? For example, let's say a company is trying to improve customer satisfaction by 10%, right? That is the goal and the outcome, the overall goal and the outcome. Now, the overall goal and the outcome, goals and the outcome of the support agents, right? Who are going to be the end users in this case. Their own goals, their own outcomes might be giving better responses to customers, right? You see how their own outcome plays a key role in the overall outcome of the company, which is to increase satisfaction, right, by 10%. Now, I hope you are following that. Now, you see, one thing that most CSN, I want to show you one thing that most CSN skips in this stage, and is actually very important, is that you also want to know about the personal goals of the stakeholders. Here's what I mean. For example, even though the professional goal of a support agent, right, is to offer better responses to customer, based on the overall goal of the company, a personal goal could be to reduce burnouts, right, and improve mental health. You understand? Like, they should stop being stressed. This is a personal goal. You want to tie your features to more than just, the professional goal. You also want to ensure that there's an emotional connection. Now, how you are going to go about this, right? How you are going to go about finding this personal goal depends on the protocols at your company or your style. It depends. You could do this on the call. You could do this. You could reach out personally. However, it's possible for you to do it. What matters is that this emotional connection to your product is really important, especially for champions and power users, because it will play a key role further down during retention and renewals, right? That is why this emotional connection is important, that you get it. Your success plan has to involve these personal goals aside the professional goals, right? You have to make sure, and it's most especially the key stakeholders like champions and power users. Now, this is another area where change management, which I mentioned earlier, is actually important. And like I said, I will attach a document at the end of this video, right, that shows you how I go about it. Now, once you already have all that clear, right, on the overall goal, when you're already clear on the overall goal of the concern and also the goals of the relevant stakeholders in relation to the overall company goal, right, and also the personal goals of each stakeholder ties to that, it's now time to make it achievable for everyone involved, right? And that is where the next framework comes in, the next part of the framework, which is CE, right? That means critical events. Now, what does critical events mean? Critical event is basically a deadline that has consequences. Now, let me explain that to you. You see, after acknowledging all their outcomes and their goals, you now want to categorize it based on urgency and priority. Because the thing is, you find out that it will give you a lot of outcomes, that you want to achieve or goals. But then not everything is as important as urgent as, they make it seem. So you want to know which are actually the most important, which are actually the most urgent. Now, the question you're asking yourself here that you want to be asking them there is, in this stage is, what does success look like to you? in either 30 days, 60 days, or whatever, it's been based on your onboarding, timeline, right? You want to know what success means to them within this time frame. Like you want to know the 2 to 3 key things, right? Among all the outcomes they've given, you want to know the two, maybe like 2 or 3 among them that could be achieved within this time frame, right? Of this onboarding time frame, to clarify to them that yes, we made the right decision, right? Like you want to know, how do we know we've made an impact here? That's question. That is the answer. That is question we want to provide an answer to. How do we know that we've made an impact here? How do execs see that they've made the right decision? You want to know the goals that you need to achieve within the time frame for that to become clear to everybody, right? Like I said, this is important because if you find out they give you a lot of outcomes and you have to prioritize them. Now, here's one more thing. You see, in order to assess the importance of this, of these key things that they tell you, right? This, you want to know the importance of it. Like I said, the importance of the urgency. So in order to assess it, you also need to ask one more question. And this is a very important question. You want to ask them, what happens if this doesn't get achieved within that time frame? Like what will actually happen? Will it lead to lost revenue, right? Missed KPIs, executive hits, or will it impact the ability to do something? You want to know the entire. Remember, I told you this is called the critical event, right? So a deadline that has consequences. So you want to know the consequences of missing the deadline. How dire is it? That is what will let you know the importance and what you actually need to focus on. Because this is how you know the right features you need to give them. You are going to know the right tools, the right training, right? That you need to give them to ensure that they achieve this before the deadline. And so that you won't encounter that consequences. Right. Now, I want to move into one more thing. There's one more thing you need to know here. You see, after you've already assessed all the importance of the key things they tell you want to achieve, and you're already clear on that, you actually want to do one more thing. This can literally make or break your entire plan. And that is their internal capability. What do I mean by internal capability? You see, you want to know if their internal systems, right? Maybe like their tech stack, this, or maybe like the level of expertise of their employees, all these things. You want to know if they actually have the capability to achieve this outcome within that time frame. You understand? Because you want to know. Because if they can't, that's like a bad image of you. Because now you've overpromised and underdelivered, and you want to avoid that. So now, this is basically something you will do after you kick off call, right? Or maybe during the implementation, right? When the team is implementing that. You want to get comments from the ops team, the operation teams on both sides, from your own side and from their own side. You want to have an idea, okay, maybe that is if it has to do with infrastructure, for example. You want to know, okay, when you were implementing on their system, what do you think? Do they have like maybe outdated softwares, all those kind of stuff? You want to ask that from your own team. Then from your own team, you also want to know, okay, for my team said, this, that, right? Is there a way, like, do you guys plan to do this? Like, you just want to ensure that they have the internal capability to achieve these outcomes. Or maybe it's the HR, maybe this thing is related to HR. Whatever it is, you just want to ensure that you find out that they have the internal capability for it. Now, like I said, this part is tricky. If you find out that there are going to be certain blockers that will stop them from achieving these desired outcomes, you need to let them know. But you don't want to go about this in like a maybe harsh or condescending on an impolite tone. No, no, no. You don't want to make them feel like they are lagging behind no. You want to approach this with, in a way that makes let them understand that you are doing it for their own good, right? Just want to let them know that there are certain things, maybe based on the current level of your own system, that might not allow certain outcomes that they want to be possible, and you can realign on goals or maybe find a way to solve those things, right? Now, this is really key because, like I said, it can literally make or break your success plan. So now let's move to it. After you've already, clarify the urgent and the important goals, right? You've checked for potential blockers and you've also handled it. It's now time to tie all of them together with the last part of the framework, which is D. Now, D stands for decision. Now, what does decision mean? This basically means the decision makers, right? The owners, the processes, right? This is where you start to understand their internal processes, not just the technical part, but even things like, how does implementation occur? How do decisions get made? Like, who needs to do X for Y to happen? Anything that is related to the goals that they want to achieve, you want to know the processes involved. You also want to know if let's say there's even going to be a department that is going to be involved, you want to know this, right? You can even use the RACI model, like, to assign ownership. That is the responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. You can use it to assign ownership, like, okay, this is who needs to be accountable, right? These are the group that are supposed to be responsible. This is the group that's supposed to be consulted. This is who is supposed to be informed. All those, all this, all that. You want to ensure, because ownership, processes, and decision makers, they are very important in ensuring that a success plan is successful, right? Now, once you've done, that's basically like the whole entire framework, the SPICED, SPICE framework. Now, so when you've already done all that, basically you've already got, should I say, all the ammunitions, right, that will allow you to create a killer success plan that knocks it out of the park using the SPICE, SPICED framework. Now, so here is an overview of the account plan, the success plan that I was talking about right at the beginning of the video. This was a success plan that I said I created for a client that helped them to save over $14,000 in losses within 30 days. It was for a client called Kubotech, right? Kubotech partnered with our company, which our company helps companies to automate their support, the customer support side of their business, right? So Kubotech was the fast growing direct to consumer electronic brand. I was known for its, affordable smart home devices, right? So they needed our AI, which was Castor AI, to help them to handle things like their support systems, to improve customer experience, to automate at least 30% of routine order inquiries, and to also improve first contact resolution by 20%, right? Now, um, let me show you. As you can see, the success plan was divided into three parts. That's the account overview, which just gives you an overall profile of the customer. Then we went to the objective. The objective is where we start to drill into their priorities and their pain, like we talked about when we're discussing the framework, right? P, as you can see, they have seven. We marked 7 pain points, right? Which was actually urgent. Says the customer's support side of it says all these pages are actually kind of interlinked with each other because we're automating three different parts. One part that we were automating was for the agents, another part we were automating were for the managers, right, the coaches of the agents. Then we also wanted to prove ROI to the executives, right? So that's why we have 7 different pain points, which was grouped into 3 buckets, right? As you can see, the first one is reducing wait time, right? The next one is the agents needing supervision, right? Because they struggle to hit their KPIs. Another one was the managers lacking visibility into the life performance of the support agents. Then we have the poor playbook adherence and the compliance risk, right? Then there was inefficient coaching and successes and wrap time. Then lack of understanding of performance drivers. Then we had to prove ROI, right, to the executives and decision makers, right? So as you can see, I mapped the different features that we have. Now, when it comes to actually mapping a feature, I have another video on that, right? I'm going to make on that, on how to accurately map the features that we actually give them the desired outcome that they want. I'm going to make another video now, so keep your eyes out for that. So as you can see, I mapped the various features based on that framework that I'm going to talk about in that video. To undo, for example, look at this, reducing wait time. So we had a feature called the auto note taking and summarization, right? We also had the knowledge assist from agent assist, right? So basically, when the support agent is on the call with a customer, the AI can in real life while they're having the call, and the customer asks a question, right? The AI can pull from the knowledge base of the company and let the customer show the agent without the customer even knowing it, and give the agent the answer so that I can accurately answer the customer. This was a way agents could handle calls better. And another one too is look at these agents need supervisions, right? They always need constant supervisions because they always forget, they're under constant stress and everything, and they struggle to meet their KPIs. So one way we want to do that is with the real-time insights. checklist and life coaching from agent artists. While they're on the call, we have AI agents that can be coaching them live, right? So this was why how I was just mapping the features to give them desired outcome. Then we also have the key performance drivers. These are the metrics that I'll be tracking related to the features, right? That I mapped to their desired outcome. Of course, I'm going to make another video detailing how I was able to do this. And you can also see the solutions, right? Example, the wait time, the solution that we offered was collaborating with the ops team, right? With their ops team to identify the high volume queries. Then we guide the rollout of the agents small by small so that it will overwhelm the support agents. Then also we ensure that their knowledge base is actually, you know, prepared to be integrated into their system. So that's just basic. Then we have the action plan. The action plan is where we also list the priority and the challenges and the actions that we are going to take. Then the results we're going to expect. Like this is the result they're going to expect. Then timeline, and also the ownership based on the racing model that I talked about. So this is just basically how I do kickoff calls, right? And the steps I take before creating a customer success plan so that I'm able to create one with the customer that helps them to see value as fast as possible. So I hope you learned, right, one or two things for this video that was very helpful. And if you did, please like and subscribe, right? And keep your notifications on for the next video. If you also have any comments, right, drop them in the chat and I will respond as soon as I can. And as for the change management document I mentioned, right, the description is in the link below, right? You can download it there. I will also be making a video of how I went, going into details of how I created it, right? I will be making that later. So that is it for today, and see you in the next video.